Boris Johnson has a very vocal group of supporters, both amongst Tory MPs and amongst the Conservative Party membership. We hear from them all the time, pretty much every time I do one of these shows. Some of them write to Conservative Home to complain about it. But I think the important thing that Tory MPs needed to remember, and that anyone who wants a Conservative government needed to remember, is that while that group is very vocal, they are a minority. You know, Boris Johnson's national polling was very poor. He did not command the confidence of his colleagues. You know, he left office because about 60 of them resigned because they didn't think they were unable to serve in his government. So the idea that he'd come back from that to win a general election, I don't think it was particularly plausible.
What is Rishi Sunak going to do first if he is Prime Minister, as we expect by the end of the day? It's not just the economy that he's got to deal with, and first and foremost, it's trying to unite a deeply fractured party.
It's going to be very difficult. I mean, what really unites the Conservative Party is strength. You know, if you're a strong leader with a clear mandate who's getting something done, the Tory MPs will normally row in behind you, whatever it is, right? You know, the Wets served with Margaret Thatcher. All those people who said they'd leave the party if Boris Johnson became Prime Minister, half of them ended up serving in one or other of his many cabinets. You know, it happens. But Rishi Sunak has a standing start. It's going to be really difficult for him. The most important thing he has to do in the first few weeks is Jeremy Hunt is currently cooking up the medium-term fiscal plan, which is what he used to calm the markets down. That's going to contain a very unpopular package of spending cuts / tax rises, and Rishi Sunak is going to have to get Tory MPs to vote that through.
But it's interesting, isn't it, that it's not going to be popular, no.
Nope.
However, there is this longing, isn't there? And I think for a lot of people, whether perhaps people who aren't members of the Conservative Party or even Conservative voters at the last election are just going to say, right, it's going to be difficult, it's going to be painful, but at least it feels like we are doing something.
That has to be Rishi Sunak's best hope, that after the chaos of the past few months, you know, it will be a very painful, spending cuts are never popular, tax rises are never popular, but if it calms the markets down, if it gets mortgages, you know, back down, if it solidifies pensions, then I think hopefully in 2024, when we'll probably have the next election, Rishi can go to voters and he can say, look, I know that it's not been the best few years, but on the things that really matter, the pounds and pence, the cost of living, I've looked after you.
Some of the papers have been talking about sort of this little bit of a gear shift from Rishi Sunak. 6 weeks ago, it was ready for Rishi. It was all very slick, too polished. He had 6 weeks to learn from the things that didn't really resonate with the public, and he might be in better shape now.
Yeah, I actually think Rishi Sunak's campaign has been really helped by the last few weeks, because now he's basically come in, he's got, you know, a few scars from the last battle, you know, his clothing's a bit ruffled, got a bit of dust on him, and he's like, look, I was right. You know.
But he hasn't really said that. He hasn't come out and go, I told you so.
No, he hasn't had to, because it's been so obvious. You know, I think this is why I think people are underpricing the idea that he might have beaten Boris Johnson in a member round, because he can say to people, look, coming just off the back of losing to Liz Truss and everything that happened after Liz Truss, he could have said, the last thing we need is more instability. If Boris wins, you know, love him or loathe him, the markets are going to go absolutely haywire. So I think it has done something for his credibility that Liz Truss imploded so spectacularly just after beating him in that last contest.